Hi, hello, and welcome back to Reading with SJ, where I read a book and give like an unhinged review on it. Because why not? Why not? I read these books and I need to talk about them. So, in preparation for the Wicked movie coming out, I decided to reread the Wicked book. Why 12-year-old me, one, was reading this at 12 years old, I don't know. And why I thought it walked on water, I have no idea. Because since rereading it, I question everything about 12-year-old me. If you did not know, Wicked was a book before it was a Broadway musical and before it was a movie. Yes, the Broadway musical and the movie are loosely, very loosely based on the Wicked book that came out in the early 1990s. So the author was approached, Gregory Maguire, he was approached with, Gregory Maguire was approached about turning his book into a musical. He said, you know what, go ahead, go for it. When he saw the musical, he hated it. He hated it. He hated seeing what his work had become. But when he saw that the audience loved it, he learned to love it too. So even though this book has a beautiful picture from the movie, and even though this book is labeled as a movie tie-in, this is nothing like the movie, and this is not for children. It is not even for young adults / teens. This is solely an adult book, okay? Trigger warnings for everything. If you can think it, it is definitely in this book. A book is written in 5 parts. They're split. It's almost written almost like a play, the way they're split in parts. Each one of those parts does a time jump. This book over here thinking it's a little time machine. Every part of the book, you're jumping ahead like 7 years. But one thing I do like about this book is that it did include a map in here of Oz, which I absolutely love, because the amount of times that I actually did have to flip back and look at this map and be like, all right, wait, you're over here and you're traveling over here. All right, thank you. This map was a lifesaver. So the beginning of this book, we open into a prologue where we are introduced to the iconic Dorothy and her gang. Dorothy, the lion, the Tin Man, and the Scarecrow. Mind you, Dorothy is 12 years old, like 11, 12 years old, okay? Keep that in mind. They are traveling down the yellow brick road to head to the Emerald City. While they're traveling, the Tin Man, Lion, and Scarecrow are telling Dorothy, the 12-year-old girl, all about the Wicked Witch and how she is evil. She is possessed by demons, and she was possibly castrated at birth. She was born not a male, yet not a female. Like, they are telling all of this to a 12-year-old girl, 12, 11-year-old girl. What? While they're discussing all of this, the Wicked Witch is actually flying above them and listening to it all, and she is actually pissed because they're sitting here gossiping about her, and they don't even know who the hell she is. They've never met her before. They know nothing about her, so she's rightfully pissed. A storm comes in, the gang runs for cover, and the Wicked Witch has to too, because she is allergic to water. She cannot get wet. So that is the end of the prologue, and then we are into part 1 of the book, titled Munchkinlanders. Munchkinlanders is split into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 chapters. So part 1, Munchkinlanders, separated into 8 chapters. And this part of the book pretty much details Elphaba, the Wicked Witch, her life from birth all the way until she was about a toddler. So we are introduced to her parents, Melina and Frex. Frex is like a preacher. He travels all over Oz preaching religion, his religion, and you can only follow his religion because it is the best religion. Melina is heavily pregnant with Elphaba, but something about Melina is because Frex travels so much, she gets lonely, she gets bored. So when she sees a wandering male traveler going past her little cottage, traveling to God knows where, she invites them in, gives them a little something to eat, and then a little bit of extra fun time. One of these travelers that she happened to entertain one night was a man traveling with a green vial with some kind of liquid in it. She drank from that, remembers nothing about what happened. So it's almost like she was drugged, I guess. But she had these very vivid dreams, very vivid visions, but she remembers nothing. So all of a sudden she is pregnant. Now, is this Frex's baby or is this somebody else's baby? We might never know, or maybe we will know. Who knows? Anyways, Frex has to travel. There is this big show being put on by this thing called the Clock of the Time Dragon. It is like this big grandfather clock with a dragon on top. They do like some kind of puppet show. Everybody is in love with these shows. It has like a cult following. That is pissing Frex off because they're like, oh, they're going to follow whatever this dragon clock says. No. So he has to travel to another town to put a stop to it because that is where the clock tower is going to arrive. Melina is upset because she's like, the baby is going to be born now. How dare you leave? But okay, fine, I get it. You spouting off your religion is so much more important than welcoming our first child. So Frex leaves, travels to this town over to tell all the townspeople, do not listen to the clock dragon. It's bad, it's terrible, it's disgusting. Because one of the shows that this clock dragon thing put on was about a husband who was traveling through town, came across a widow. The widow just went right on over and pulled down his trousers, noticed he had two appendages, one in the front, one in the back, and was like, hey, let's have my daughter join in on the rocking and the bucking. Yes, great show. So while he is doing this, Melina is actually giving birth to Elphaba. The townsmen have all become riled up because of this show that this clock tower has put on. Frex has basically been beaten because he's telling them not to listen to it. So the women who are helping Melina give birth, they take her in a hay cart and they're afraid that these men are going to come into the house and kill Melina. So they take her, load her into a hay cart, and decide that the safest place to put her while she gives birth is inside the clock tower itself. So inside that clock tower is where Elphaba is born. And as soon as she comes out, the women are disgusted and repulsed, and the first thing they can think of doing is throwing her in the lake and killing her because she was born green. And they spend a little bit too much time, in my opinion, checking Elphaba down there to see if she truly is a female or a male. We didn't need almost 2 pages of these women checking this baby over. No. And Elphaba actually did end up biting one of the women's fingers off because her teeth were so sharp. And all I have to say is go Elphaba. Go Elphaba. The next couple chapters pretty much just details how Melina has no motherly emotional attachment whatsoever to Elphaba because Elphaba is just green. She is repulsed by her own daughter. Melina calls for her nanny to come and see if she can find a remedy to make Elphaba not green, but nanny cannot find a remedy. Frex leaves again to go see if he can find a remedy. While Frex is gone, there is a man traveling. He is a quadling. He is from Quadling country. And one thing about the quadlings is they are actually looked down upon in Oz. They are not liked. And he is red, and Melina's like, ooh, he is hot. I'm going to hit that. So she invites him in, and that is actually exactly what she does. She cheats on Frex with this quadling named Turtle Heart. And Turtle Heart is actually like a glass blower. He does art and stuff with glass. And he actually makes Elphaba this little round ball, and Elphaba spends like so much time just looking into this ball. We also get a scene where, and I feel like Elphaba was just feral. It's just a feral child, and the closest thing I can relate that to is Donnie from the Wild Thornberries. She was just a feral child. She didn't really talk. She wasn't always around other kids. There's one scene where she just peed all over the floor and then bent down and smelled it. I'm just like, Frex and Melina, parents of the year over here. My God. Then we get a scene where Melina is pregnant again. We don't know if it's Frex's baby. We don't know if it's Turtle Heart's baby. But Nanny did travel to another town to get these pills from a gypsy woman named Yakel. Remember that name. To help Melina, who is pregnant, so this baby doesn't come out green like Elphaba did. While Nanny is getting these little pills from this gypsy woman, she tells her this entire prophecy about these two daughters and how they are going to like take over Oz and all of this. And Nanny's just like, cool, cool, cool. Just give me the pills so I can go home and give them to Melina. So, that baby doesn't come out green like Elphaba did. And the family decides that they are going to pack up and move to Quadling Country. They're going to leave Munchkin Land and move to Quadling Country for the promise of all the ruby deposits that are in the soil and stuff around there. And also Frex is like, these people have never heard my religion, so I can spout my religion off to them. So that is what they do. They pack up and they leave Munchkin Land and move to Quadling Country. And that is the end of part 1. All right, we are now on to part 2, titled Gilkin, and Gilkin is split into 3 chapters. In these chapters, it does a time jump where Elphaba and everything is a teenager, and she is on her way to Shiz University. But before we are introduced to Elphaba's time at Shiz University, we meet Galinda, not Glinda, Galinda. Galinda is on the train traveling to Shiz University. Her nanny is not with her, as her nanny stepped on a rusty nail at the train station and got it in her foot and had to leave to go seek medical attention. Galinda is sitting in a compartment with a goat. Yes, a goat. In Oz, you have animals who are just, like your basic animal. Or you have animals that are pretty much sentient. They can talk and they can do a lot of stuff that a human can do. This goat that she is sitting with is called Dr. Dillamond. Dillamond? Yeah. He is actually going to be a professor at Shiz University. He cannot pronounce her name, Galinda, so he says Glinda. And Galinda is like, that's not my name. But Dr. Dillamond goes on to tell her about how all the animals in Oz are starting to lose their rights and being, they're being stripped of their rights. They can't work anymore or anything like that. And Galinda is like, that's cool, I guess, but I don't care. So Galinda arrives at Shiz University and we are introduced to Madame Marble, the most horrible headmistress I have ever met. I mean, I think she is right up there with that professor from Harry Potter. I can't even remember her name because she was that horrible. But Madame Marble is in the process of splitting the girls up into different dormitories, and because Galinda has traveled without a nanny, Madame Marble is like, oh, guess you're gonna have to be placed into a dorm with 14 other girls. And Galinda is like, no. She goes up and secretly talks to Madame Marble and lets her know, hey, no, my nanny is going to be here. She just had to seek medical care. And Madame Marble is like, okay, well, when your nanny gets here, she can help take care of all these other girls who don't have nannies. And Galinda is like, no, you don't understand. My nanny has this condition where she talks to inanimate objects because she thinks they're real. So she can't be trusted to take care of all these other girls. I can handle it because she's basically raised me. Madame Marble's like, okay. Whatever you say, Galinda. Well, if you can't room with 14 other girls, we'll just have you go ahead and room with Elphaba. And Galinda's like, she's green. Are you serious right now? She's ragged looking. Her clothes are like disgusting. You want me to room with that? Madame Warble's like, it's either that or the 14 other girls. So Galinda and Elphaba, that is how they actually end up becoming roommates. And Galinda's nanny does eventually come back and she calls Galinda and Elphaba her little ducks. I think that is so cute. And she does help take care of Elphaba and stuff like that, which I thought was so sweet. I love that part of the book. Now, Galinda actually spends like the first couple months of school completely ignoring Elphaba. Like completely ignores her, doesn't even acknowledge her presence or anything. Until one night when Elphaba is just laying in bed reading, and Galinda's like, you always have your nose in a book. Please do tell, what is it that you are always reading? Elphaba decides to tell that she is reading a book about, I guess, like evilness. And then her and Galinda actually have this entire conversation, and it really seems like they're starting to get along about wickedness and evilness, and if you are born with it or if you have it thrust upon you. And it really does seem like they were getting along. But then the next day, Galinda just goes right back to like not even acknowledging Elphaba's presence. And Galinda actually spends more time talking down about Elphaba to others, because Galinda very much cares about what people think of her and her looks and reputation and all of that. We have one night where Madame Morrible the Horrible decides to put on a little poetry soiree. And the boys and the girls are allowed to come together to kind of like mingle and listen to this poem. The end of this poem ends with, animals should be seen and not heard. Now, this pisses off Dr. Dillamond, who was in the audience listening to the poem. Remember, he is a goat. It also pisses off a couple other professors who are animals in there, and they leave in a huff. This also pisses off Elphaba, who happened to take a seat next to Galinda. And Elphaba is like rightfully pissed, and she tries to talk to Galinda, but Galinda kind of like ignores her. And then out of the blue, this little Munchkinlander walks up named Bach. I hate Bach. I have not met a person who has read this book or anything like that who actually likes Bach. I hate him. I hate him. He sees Galinda, he is enamored by her beauty, decides to walk up, and he notices Elphaba sitting next to Galinda, and he goes, oh my God, I know you. Elphaba's like, no, you don't. You don't know me. One thing about Elphaba is she had a terrible childhood. She doesn't like to remember her childhood. So somebody walking up and being like, oh my God, I know you. Elphaba's like, please, I don't want to rehash my childhood. I don't want to remember it. Bach's like, yes, no, I know you. I believe we grew up together and you tried to bite me once. Elphaba's like, cool story, goodbye. And Bach's like, what did I do? And Galinda's like, don't worry about her. Don't worry about her. Please do sit down and tell me all about Munchkinland. And I feel in this scene, Galinda did not care to want to know what Munchkinland was like and what Bach's life was like. She was more interested in knowing some more details about Elphaba's childhood to maybe talk bad about her to the others later on. All right, we are now flash forwarding to the summer after the first school year, and this is all from Bach's point of view, this chapter. And Bach's dorm mates decide to go out one night, and they invite Bach with them. Bach's like, no, you guys go ahead. I'm actually going to hang back here and study a little bit. And they're like, all right, whatever, dude. Bach honestly was not going to study. He took this as an opportunity to sneak out, climb onto a stable roof that is separating the girls and the boys' dormitories, and spy. Be a little peeping Tom into the girls' dormitory. But he says, he makes this reasoning that it's really not spying or anything like that, because he's only looking for one girl and one girl in particular. Either way you look at it, Bach, you are a peeping Tom and you are a disgusting man. And while he is doing this on the roof, Elphaba is actually down below in her garden, checking over her plants and stuff like that, and actually notices Bach and is just like, hey, what you doing up there? And this actually startles Bach to where he actually falls to the ground, and he's like, nothing. I wasn't doing anything. Like, I definitely wasn't trying to look into the girls' dormitory. And Elphaba's like, listen, I know exactly what you were doing. I know you're looking for a certain someone in particular. Just so you know, she happens to be my roommate. And if you want, I can set up a meeting between the two of you, because I can tell you right now, it is never going to happen between the two of you. But I will go ahead and set up this meeting so Galinda, can let you down nicely. So Elphaba sets up this meeting between Galinda and Bach. And as soon as Bach sees Galinda, he just launches into this little like rehearsed poem type of thing where he calls her the moon to his shadow light, the fruit of the candlewood tree. What is a candlewood tree? What? Anyways, Galinda is like, thanks. And you're fun to look at. And then she just real quickly launches into this entire like little thing where she's like, it is never going to work between you and me. I come from money and I am meant to marry money. I am meant to marry somebody rich. You do not come from money and you're short. And Bach is like, oh, but can we just go ahead and play the long game? Like, get to know one another, be friends first, and then we could try dating? Bach, no means no. End of story. Galinda does not like you. She don't want to be with you. She wants nothing to do with you. It is never going to happen, dude. Take a hint. Galinda's just basically like, no thanks. Goodbye. So after this interaction, Elphaba reaches out to Bach because she is actually helping Dr. Dillamond do research into animal rights and their creation and stuff like that. And she actually asks Bach for help because Bach has access to a special library. During all of this little research together, trying to come up with how animals were created and stuff like that, Elphaba receives a letter from Galinda, who is at her lake house, and Galinda is inviting Elphaba to the lake house. Elphaba's not going to go. Bach's like, no, let's go. This will be so much fun. This is actually good. You know that Galinda is reaching out to you. She wants to be friends. Bach also has like ulterior motives. He kind of wants to go with Elphaba because he wants to try and get closer to Galinda. So the both of them travel to the lake house, and we learn that Galinda never sent that letter. That letter was actually sent by one of her mean little friends as a joke to Elphaba, but she didn't think Elphaba was going to respond to the letter. But Elphaba's like, well, I'm here now and I am staying. I'm going to go find my room. So we get a couple scenes of them spending time at the lake house, and then Galinda and Bach kiss, but it's never brought up or mentioned again. So why that was even put in the book, I don't know. Now we are back at school, and as Bach is like cleaning the library, he comes across this really, really old painting. It's like a painting on a scroll of this beautiful witch standing over a river. She's like straddling it, and she is peeing into the river. As she is peeing into the river, it overflows, and the animals that don't fight the current and swim are the animals who become animals, sentient, able to talk and do everything a human can do. The animals that don't swim basically just drowned and become regular animals. Maybe it's reversed. Maybe I have that reversed. I don't know. I still couldn't get over the fact that a witch was peeing into a river, and that is basically how animals were created, from witch pee. That's great. I don't understand it. So a new school year starts, and Bach notices that there is all this commotion down in the courtyard. And he's like, what is going on? Why is there so many, people congregated in the courtyard like this? So he goes down and he's trying to talk to Galinda and Elphaba about what is going on. The wind blows just right, and he sees a blanket laying, and the wind flips up a corner of the blanket, and there is Dr. Dillamond. He gone. He has left the world. All the students believe that Dr. Dillamond was murdered. You don't get a wound like that from slipping and falling on a magnifying glass, which is what the students are being told. And the students, bless them, are smarter. They know that was not what happened. But during all of this, we come to find out that Galinda's nanny is missing. Yeah, she's missing. And Madame Morrible's like, oh, girls, don't you worry. You're Madame Morrible. Your nanny is fine. She's actually in the infirmary, and she's sitting there talking to that nail that she stepped on that was in her foot. If you remember, Galinda's nanny stepped on a nail as they were traveling to Shiz University. Galinda came up with this lie about her nanny talking to inanimate objects to try and get out of rooming with 14 other girls. Madame Morrible knew that was a lie, and this is her way of pretty much throwing that back into Galinda's face like, yeah, I knew you were lying, Galinda, who now goes by Glinda in honor of Dr. Dillamond. Now, because Glinda's nanny is in the infirmary and Elphaba and Glinda are left without a caretaker, Madame Morrible's like, oh, this just won't do. This won't do. So let's invite your sister, Elphaba, Nessa Rose, earlier to Shiz, and she can bring along her nanny. One thing to know about Nessa Rose is she is actually really beautiful. She pretty much takes after Frux in spouting religion dogma, and unlike the movie and the musical, she is actually born without arms. So she needs her nanny at all times to help balance her with walking and pretty much do everything for her. During all of this, Glinda does ask Elphaba, like, hey, how come you never mentioned that you had a sister? And Elphaba goes ahead and kind of tells her a little bit of a backstory where her parents moved to Quadling country. Nessa Rose was born. And their mother actually died giving birth to their little brother, who we kind of really never see or hear about in the book. It also goes on to say that Nessa Rose is like the favorite child, like the shining star. And Elphaba is just there. At this point in the book, the boys and the girls now have shared classes. And one of the classes, who is being taught by this professor named Dr. Nicodick. Dr. Nicodick. He is a replacement for Dr. Dillamond. He somehow makes a pair of antlers come to life. You know, like deer antlers. He somehow makes them come to life by putting this potion on them. And the antlers are just like kind of like walking around the room. And the kids are like, oh, wow, this is so cool. I can't wait to find out how to do that. At the time, as they are walking around the room, Fiyero walks in. Fiyero, our lovely, beautiful, dancing through life Fiyero. He walks in. Mind you, the Fiyero in Wicked, the Wicked book, he is dark-skinned and he has blue diamonds like all over his face. Why was that changed for the musical and the movie? Why? Why was that changed? I mean, don't get me wrong. I love who they chose to play Fiyero in the movie, but why did we change Fiyero for the musical and the movie? I just want to know why. But he walks in and these antlers just all of a sudden turn around and actually attack Fiyero. They have him pinned to the ground, almost like they are about to kill him. And it takes a couple of the students, male students in the classroom, to pry these antlers off of him. Honestly, if that was my first day of school and that happened to me on my first day in my very first class, I would turn around and be like, bye, I'm done. Learning apparently is not for me. I was just almost killed by a pair of antlers. Goodbye. We also learned that Fiyero has already pretty much been married. Like he, at 7 years old, was promised to another girl from another tribe who was also 7, but they have never met and they will not meet until he turns 18. One day, as they are in Dr. Nicodick's class, he decides to bring in a lion cub that is in a cage, and he asks the students if they can tell whether or not this lion cub is an animal or an animal. Elphaba goes, there is no way to tell as this lion cub is too young. It would be better if we asked the mother because only the mother would know. Dr. Nicodick is like, yeah, that's true. However, the mother is dead. So can't ask her, but you know what we can do? We can categorize part of this lion's brain so it won't be so scared anymore. And all the kids are like, excuse me, we're gonna do what now to this poor little lion cub? No, we're not. No, we're not. They erupt. Chaos ensues. Everyone is upset, and 2 students are actually able to rescue this little lion cub and get it to safety. Thank God. Thank God. As for Glinda, she is now practicing sorcery because Madame Morrible the Horrible said, you know what, you should practice sorcery. I think it would be really good for you. And Glinda's like, oh my God, really? Okay, because you said so. I really had no interest in it because you're noticing me. let's go for it. But she is finding that sorcery is actually a little bit more difficult than she thought it was, because it is a lot more than just waving your wand around and creating magic. There are spells and reading and stuff like that that you actually have to do. And so she's having a little bit of a hard time with it. So Glinda is no longer like a little airhead and talking smack about everybody, and she doesn't have this little ditzy mean streak thing going on anymore. She is actually very caring and compassionate now, and Bach cannot stand that. So he's like, psh, no more Glinda for me. I now have to find another girl to go obsess over. One night, Madame Marble invites Elphaba and Nessa Rose into her office as they have received a package from their father, Frex. I say they when really it was just Nessa Rose who received the package, and she opens it. Well, Elphaba opens it for her, and it is a pair of silver shoes that, when turned in the light, all the rubies and the diamonds and everything reflect off the light and make it look like they are red in some parts and then back to silver. So yeah, Elphaba is actually very upset that she received nothing from her father, because just once she would like to know what it is like to be loved by her father. We are going to fast forward a little bit when Madame Marble goes to Elphaba and Glinda and tells them, you gotta go see your nanny. You can go see her now. Now you can go see her. Before you couldn't see her because she wasn't right in the head, but you can go see her now because she's on her deathbed. While there, Glinda's nanny is able to tell Elphaba and Glinda before she dies that she actually saw Grammatic, which is like this weird robotic clock butler for Madame Marble, go down and actually kill Dr. Dillamond. And because Nanny was the one who saw that happen, I guess Grammatic in turn did something to Nanny, and now Nanny is dead. A funeral is held for Nanny, and all of the other nannies and stuff like that are invited. After the funeral, Madame Marble calls Nessa Rose, Glinda, and Elphaba into her office. She is constantly calling these girls into the office. Did she ever allow them to go to school? I don't know. But while in there, she ends up asking all three girls, like she puts them under some kind of like binding spell, and it's almost like Elphaba can realize she's under the spell, but she can't do anything about it. Glinda can kind of realize it too, can't do anything about it. But under this spell, she actually asked all three girls, Nessa Rose, Glinda, and Elphaba, if Nanny told them about who killed Dr. Dillamond. And even though these three girls are under the spell, they are able to act dumb and not say a word. Madame Marble then goes on to explain how she is actually working with the wizard, who is not a very good person. The Wizard of Oz is a terrible man. And how that if they follow and do as Madame Marble says, that they too can work with the wizard and be able to rule over different parts of Oz. Like they can have everything they wish for and more if they do as Madame Marble says. And then she launches into this like long-winded thing about how the three of them are going to come together and actually, even if they don't want to, rule over different parts of Oz, and that the outcome is going to be this, this, and that. Towards the end of part 2 of the Wicked book, we have the infamous tiger scene. If you know, you know. If you don't know, you are about to know. So after this little meeting and everything in Madame Marble's office, the boys, Bach and a couple other guys, are going to go out to the philosophy club. And they invite Nessa Rose, Elphaba, and Glinda with them. However, Elphaba is like, no, we're not going. We're not going. We are going back to the dorm. You boys run along and have fun. Nessa Rose and Glinda are actually a little upset because they actually wanted to go, but Elphaba had good reason not to let them go, and we will soon find out why. So they arrive at the club. The boys arrive at the club, and they are allowed into the club by Yackle. Told you, remember her name. While inside this club, the boys get drunk and then are somehow also drugged. Also, incense is released into the air, and this incense somehow makes them react to where they become horny. They are then all placed into a theater box, like this little box, and there's an audience overlooking and watching what is about to happen. A dwarf comes in. They are dressed in leather, and they have a tiger and a whip. One of the boys is tied to the underside of the tiger, belly up, head positioned towards the tiger's chest, bottom portion positioned towards the tiger's other portion. A woman is led in where she undresses, sits in a chair, and spreads her legs. And the tiger then licks her, all while being whipped by the dwarf dressed in leather. Lovely. And Bach is watching all of this, and he is strangely and weirdly turned on by all of it. Bach has issues. Bach has issues. Obsession, stalking, being a peeping Tom, and now possibly bestiality. The man needs help. Elphaba then decides that she is just going to go to the Emerald City and see the wizard because she doesn't know what else to do. She's got to relay all this information that she has about Dr. Dillamond and his work and findings and stuff like that. She's got to tell someone, and she can't trust Madame Morrible because she just knows that Madame Morrible is horrible. So she takes Glinda with her. They travel to the Emerald City. While traveling, Elphaba realizes that the animal situation is worse than she thought it had been. She's noticing that in the Emerald City, there are not a lot of animals or anything like that. So they meet with the wizard. She presents all of the work to the wizard, and the wizard honestly could care less. He could care less. And he dismisses both girls. That is when Elphaba comes to the realization that she cannot go back to Shiz University. She actually needs to stay there in the Emerald City and become more of an activist than what she is at Shiz. So at the train station, she actually says goodbye to Glinda, and Glinda's like, "What do you mean goodbye? You're not coming back with me?" Elphaba's like, "No, I'm not coming back." Gives Glinda a kiss and tells her she'll be all right and to hold out. Now we are in part 3 of the book titled City of Emeralds, and it is just like one long area in the book. It's not split into chapters or anything like that, but we actually do a time jump, and I believe it is like 5 years, and we open to the scene of where Fiyero has arrived in the Emerald City, and he decides to go into a church, and he discovers Elphaba praying at this church. Tries to get her attention. Elphaba just ignores him. She recognizes who it is, but she ignores him. And Fiyero is like running after her because Elphaba leaves the church. Fiyero is running after her like, "Hey, wait. I know you. You're Elphaba. Hey, don't you remember me?" Elphaba finally turns around and realizes that she is not going to like lose Fiyero. She might as well just invite Fiyero back to like her little decrepit warehouse apartment where her decoration choices are definitely a choice. She's got rat shit everywhere, animal bones everywhere, including an animal, like a skull of an elephant above her bed. For somebody who is fighting for the rights of animals, she definitely made a choice with her decor. But she pretty much, they sit down and they catch up as old friends do. I wouldn't know as I have no friends, so I don't know what that's like to catch up with old friends. Anyways, Fiyero goes on to tell her that he is officially married. He is married to that girl that he was like promised to at 7 years old. They have 3 children, but he says his wife has pretty much let herself go and become fat. But his wife has said if he would like to have sex and everything with her sisters, he can go ahead and do so. But he's like, "I think that's weird and I'm never going to do that." Elphaba finally tells him a little bit about her and what she has been doing in the years since she left Shiz. She tells him she is part of a secret undercover network of activists who are against the wizard. And then she asks how everyone else is doing because she just launched. She's like, "You're not going to ask what I'm doing, but this is what I'm doing. Don't ask for any details. Tell me, how is everybody else doing?" We come to find out that Glinda has married a wealthy man like she always said she was going to do. Nessa Rose is actually preparing to take over Munchkin Land as it is a thing in the Throp family where the females are the ones to take over Munchkin Land, like rule it, be the mayor of it, something. I don't know. And Bach is married to a woman who is constantly trying to kill herself. Somehow, during all of this, Fiyero and Elphaba realize they have feelings for one another and decide to act on those feelings. And for the next couple pages of the book, we have some spicy time between Elphaba and Fiyero, but the spice isn't really that spicy. I don't know. You do get one like little sentence where I think it's so beautiful, but at the same time I question it because I know it has a dirty meaning behind it, and it is, they moved together, blue diamonds on a green field, because if you do not remember, Elphaba is green and Fiyero is dark skinned with blue diamonds all over him. So I think, for some reason, I feel like that sentence is so poetic, but at the same time, I know there's a dirty meaning behind it. We also get a scene where Fiyero and Elphaba have just finished their little spicy time. And Fiyero is staring down at a naked Elphaba sleeping in the moonlight. And he's admiring her beauty, looking over her naked body. And we learn that the curtains do not match the rug. They're purple. If I had to know that, so do you. Anyways, anything that you can think of horrible-wise in Oz is happening. Families are being ripped apart. Animals are being killed or put into camps. It's just pure chaos. Pure chaos. Oz is just not a great place to be right now. They have these things called Gale Forcers, which are like police or like military police, army, whatever. And they're just going and shooting and killing people who are against the wizard. Fiyero is just pretty much staying with Elphaba. He's not returning home to his wife and kids in Kiamako. He's just like, I'm gonna stay here with Elphaba. I'm gonna play house with her. Why not? But I will send presents home to my wife and kids. So that makes up for it. That's okay. Now, Elphaba is actually in the process of planning some big attack. She doesn't tell Fiyero what it is or anything like that. She just simply tells Fiyero, you might want to leave town for a few days and don't go back to my apartment. Does Fiyero listen to her? No, he does not. Men never listen to women. You guys really need to start listening to us. Sometimes we actually do know what we are talking about. He follows Elphaba and discovers that she is actually going to kill Madame Morrible. Forget why Madame Morrible was in the city at this point in the book, but she was, I think, getting ready to give like a speech or something like that. While she was getting ready to prepare to do that, a bunch of kids come in, like children, like school kids, and Elphaba realizes that she can't go through with her plan because there are kids now in the crowd. Elphaba disappears and Fiyero actually loses her in the crowd. So he decides to go back to her apartment and wait for her. The one place that Elphaba told him not to go, he goes to. Then we get a scene. Why Gregory felt that we needed this scene included in the book, I don't know. But I never thought that I needed to read about a scene of Fiyero taking an explosive shit into a chamber pot and listening to the sound that it makes while it hits the chamber pot, and then being beaten to death after he does so by the Gale Forcers. That's right, the Gale Forcers have broken into Elphaba's apartment, discover Fiyero. Before Fiyero can even say anything to these Gale Forcers, he is beaten to death after he takes a poopy. After learning all of this, Elphaba just like shuts down. She shuts down and she decides to join a convent that is ran by Yakel. Girl, she everywhere in this book. Everywhere. Now we are in part 4 of the book titled In the Vinkus. In the Vinkus is separated into 3 chapters. And you're like, oh, it's just separated into 3 chapters. No big deal. You'll get through that real quickly. This part of the book was like the longest part of the book. For what reason, I don't know. And it was the part of the book where I actually had to go back and read because I started zoning out because there was so many plots happening, so much information getting thrown at you that I could not contain it all. Like I was just constantly like, whoa, let me go back and read. What happened? What? Anyways, In the Vinkus starts out with another time jump. And it has been 7 years, I believe. And Elphaba has pretty much disassociated with life. So much so that she didn't even know she was pregnant and didn't even know that she gave birth. Yes, so all that spicy time that she had with Fiyero led to her getting pregnant and giving birth to a son named Lear. However, she never accepts Lear as her son because she disassociated so much. So Lear is her son, but not son. She is actually preparing to leave the convent because Yakko has pretty much told her, your time here is done. It is now time for you to go atone for your sins. You must travel to Kiamako, meet with Sarima, Fiyero's now widow, and explain to her that you are the reason why Fiyero died. So Elphaba joins this like little caravan train called the Grass Trail Train. The only thing that I can compare that to is the Oregon Trail. So think of all these like little covered wagons traveling along a prairie, because that is what I pictured in my mind. She is told when she joins that survival is not promised. And I'm sorry, if I'm getting ready to travel somewhere and the person who is in charge of everything tells me that my survival cannot be promised, I will not be traveling. I will turn around and go right back home and be like, guess I'm not meant to go on a vacation. This little travel-y time to Kiamako, Lear, Elphaba's son, but not son, makes friends with a dog, just your normal dog named Killjoy. Don't know why they chose that kind of name. Don't know what kind of name is that. Anyways, Killjoy belongs to the caravan's cook. Nobody in this little traveling group, caravan group, like the cook because he is a complete and utter asshole. They travel through Cambrakis Pass. I'm thinking, oh, Cambrakis Pass, it's like 2 little cliffs that they have to go through. No, Gregory Maguire decides to describe it as looking like a woman laying down and spreading her legs. Let me just envision it as like maybe the pass from the Neverending Story with those 2 sphinxes sitting there waiting for you to pass through. Like, let me envision that and not a woman laying on her back spreading her legs. We didn't need that description, Gregory. That description was not needed. During this little trip, Elphaba befriends some bees, bumblebees, little cute little bumblebees. Why? I don't know. This actually causes upset in the little caravan community because the cook is like, if you bring those bees with you, I will not continue through this trip. Another guy who is just on this trip to just altogether die, he's not there to get to the end thing. He's just there to die. Goes, oh, but the bees will make the honey sweeter. So everyone's like, yeah. The guy who's just here to die, he's got a point. Go ahead, bring the bees with you, Elphaba. And we're just traveling along. And then all of a sudden, the cook goes missing. People love to go missing in this book. Come to find out that he didn't go missing. He didn't disappear. The bees stung him to death. And I guess some good comes out of that because the asshole cook is now dead and Lear can now own Killjoy. Elphaba, everyone's a little upset and Elphaba is just like, don't look at me. Don't look at me. I didn't tell those bees to do that. I can't control what they do. None of that is my fault. Oregon Trail then comes along a tribe called the Squaw, and they meet a princess called Princess Nastoya, who isn't a princess at all. She is actually an elephant, an animal disguised as a human. She did some kind of magic to put a disguise on her where she looks human, but she is really an animal, which, you know what? Smart, because everything that's happening in Oz, yeah, and you're an animal, you want to be disguised. You don't want anyone to know that you're truly really an animal because you could be killed or sent to a camp. Nastoya tells Elphaba that she is hiding as a witch. And so is Elphaba. And Elphaba's like, girl, I ain't a witch. what the heck are you talking about? I am not a witch. But Princess Nastoya also tells Elphaba that you did, in fact, tell those bees to kill that cook. Just in case you didn't know that, yeah, you did. She also gives Elphaba some crows. So now we've got bumblebees, crows, and Killjoy the dog. We're just over here collecting animals, I guess. I don't know. We travel some more. And the caravan little community city comes across a lake. In the middle of this lake is an island. And on that island is a monkey. And Elphaba's like, I want that monkey. But how do I get to that monkey? Because it's surrounded by water. And I'm allergic to water. Somehow she freezes the lake and she is able to walk across it and get the monkey, who she calls Chistery. We finally arrive to Kiamako, where we are introduced to Surima, Fiero's widow, the 3 children, and Surima's sisters. Well, when we get there, Elphaba tries to tell Surima everything that happened. She needs to atone for her sins. She's got to tell Surima, hey, girl, I'm so sorry. So sorry. I pretty much had sex with your husband, took up an affair with him. This kid right here is my son, not son, possibly Fiero's too. I don't know, because I disassociated with life because I'm the one that got him beaten to death. But Surima does not want to hear it. She's like, shush, 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 shush. I don't want to hear it. Don't tell me what you have to say. Just give me a few days. So because Surima does not want to hear what Elphaba has to say, Elphaba learns, hey, I cannot leave. I have to stay until Surima wants to listen to what I have to say. And this trip to Kiamako, I feel, was planned so badly by Elphaba. She did not read the Weather Channel or check the weather or anything before she left. Now, her and Lear are stuck in Kiamako for the winter. And because they are stuck there for winter, Elphaba decides that she is going to go ahead and take a room up inside of a tower, and she is very secretive and protective of her room and what she does in her room, and basically tells everybody to stay away from her room. One day, Elphaba does, pretty much corner Surima's sisters and she's basically like, listen, what do I have to do to get Surima to listen to me? I gotta tell her some stuff. And if I don't tell her, I can't leave. And I kind of want to leave. I don't want to stay here. The sisters are basically like, good luck with that, because she doesn't want to hear it. She doesn't want to hear it. Surima is under the impression that Fiero was having an affair with Galinda because Fiero always spoke so highly and fondly of Galinda. So they think, or Surima thinks, that Glinda's husband had Fiero killed due to the affair. Surima's sisters believe that Fiero was actually killed due to political reasons. Elphaba's like, well, hey, let me tell you what really happened. Surima's sisters are like, shh, we don't want to hear it. If Surima doesn't want to hear it, neither do we. So don't tell us. Because Elphaba has come to the realization that she is probably never going to leave Kiamako, she decides to explore the castle. And in doing so, she comes across this book called the Grimoire. The Grimoire is basically the great big book of magic. And she actually asked Surima, like, where did this book come from? And Surima's like, I don't know, some guy traveling through here one day. He had like red hair and a beard. He was like, I am a sorcerer from another world. Here, take this book. And that's how we ended up with the book. So Elphaba just goes ahead and takes this book into her possession. It's her great big book of magic now. Elphaba decides to take the book and the knowledge that she has from Dr. Dillamond and tries to do an experiment on Chistery, the monkey, to try to make him learn how to talk. However, she sucks at it and Chistery learns like 2 to 3 words. So it worked, but it didn't quite work. One day, Fiero's little asshole kids decide to somehow trick Lear into hiding in a well and then just leave him. During all of this, they look over into the horizon and they see another caravan coming through. And who's on that caravan? No other than Elphaba and Nestarose's nanny. How she is still alive, I don't really know, but she's still alive. And she bribed the people at the convent to tell her exactly where Elphaba went, and that is how she arrived in Kiamako to find Elphaba. We also learn that the wizard has just truly lost his mind and is like, he's on another level and he's invading everything in Oz and no one is safe. And as Elphaba is learning all of this, she comes to the realization that Lear, her son, but not son, is missing. It has been a few days and she's like, where's Lear? Has anyone seen Lear? Like I said, people love to go missing in this book. Chistry, the monkey, is actually the one to discover Lear down in the well and notifies the children, the same children that put him down in that well. And they pull Lear out and he is blue. He is not breathing. And everyone turns to Elphaba and is like, you know magic, do your magic, bring Lear back to life. And Elphaba's like, I don't know magic. I know nothing. But she uses her head and gives Lear CPR and brings Lear back to life. And this is when we come across like this little moment of emotion between Elphaba and Lear. Like Elphaba actually shows somewhat of a little bit of an emotional attachment to Lear. Like she is so pissed off at Sarima and her kids for doing what they did. Like Sarima comes to the defense of her kids and she's like, oh, they didn't mean it. They're just kids. Elphaba's like, no, your kids are like little fucking assholes. They literally almost killed Lear. So she's like just pissed and she's like staring at this icicle, staring at it, and all this rage floods her body. All of a sudden, the icicle just goes right through one of Firo's son's skulls and kills him. One day, Elphaba and Nanny decide to sit down, have a little discussion about everything that they've missed in the last few years. Nanny goes on and tells Elphaba that everybody in the family believes Elphaba to be a witch. And Elphaba is like, that is stupid and silly. I am not a witch. And Nanny's like, no, child, you are a witch. And he also tells Elphaba that Nessa Rose is fully in charge of Munchkin Land now, but she is a terrible ruler. She is basing all of her decisions that she makes to rule Munchkin Land off of religion. And Galinda has actually enchanted the silver/ruby slippers that Nessa Rose received from Frex as a gift to make it to where Nessa Rose can walk on her own. She is steady on her feet, and that is why Nanny is there, because Nanny is no longer needed to help take care of Nessa Rose. Elphaba's like, you're old now. You don't need to take care of anybody. Just relax. And Nanny goes on to ask Elphaba, like, who Lear is. And Elphaba reveals to Nanny that the first year that she was in that convent, she was like in an unconscious comatose type state. Like she was asleep. And that kind of almost reminds me of Sleeping Beauty, not the Disney version, where Sleeping Beauty was asleep and didn't know that the prince came and basically raped her. And Sleeping Beauty ended up becoming pregnant with twins, and giving birth to twins is actually what woke her. But Elphaba doesn't even remember or know that she was pregnant with Lear. She said at this convent she had to take care of a lot of kids, and one of them was Lear that she had to take care of. When she was told to leave the convent, she was also told to take Lear with her. So she's like, I don't know, maybe he's my son, maybe he's not, I don't know. At this point in the book, some Gale Foresters, the military police, arrive at the castle in Kiamako where Sarima and all that live, and they ask to be able to stay on the grounds, to set up camp and stay at Kiamako. And Elphaba's like, you're not staying here. Be gone. Keep it moving. You're not staying here. Sarima is like, oh, no. Please make yourself at home. Go ahead. Set up your camp. You can stay here. Lear kind of becomes like obsessed with the soldiers. He's like watching them. He's like truly engrossed in them. And then one of Fiero's daughters, Noor, she is also thoroughly obsessed with the soldiers. She is almost like a little flirt with them. She's bringing them flowers. She brings them food. She cleans for them. She brings them fruit and she hand feeds them the fruit. Just plops it right into their mouth. One day, while the soldiers are out, Noor decides that their little encampment, like their little camp, needs a thorough, deep cleaning. So she grabs Elphaba's broom to do so, because it's a broom. What does a broom do? It sweeps, it cleans. Elphaba and Nanny are nowhere around. They're actually out somewhere else. in the grasslands, I guess, drinking some tea. So Nora decides to take off her shirt. She's 12 years old, mind you. And I'm reading about how she takes off her shirt, puts on one of the soldiers' cloaks, and just smells it, and lays down on the bed with the cloak open, exposing herself. And she's envisioning the soldiers coming in and seeing her laying there, and all the stuff that they could possibly do when they discover her laying there. Then she gets up and she's like, I don't know why I'm thinking about this. I shouldn't be thinking about this. She gets up and she goes to reach for Elphaba's broom. And in doing so, the broom actually moves right into her hand. And Nora's like, oh, is this a magic broom? Is this broom really magical? Because Elphaba was always saying that the broom is not magical. That Yakel just kind of gave it to her because Yakel told Elphaba that it was part of her destiny. But let me see if this broom is magical. Let me get on it. As soon as Nora gets on this broom, the broom just takes off right out the window. And Nora is just zooming through the air on this broom. Mind you, she's still shirtless. She's got a cloak on, so everything is exposed, and she's just flying through the air. Nanny and Elphaba are like mid-sip of their tea, like, are you seeing what I'm seeing? What is going on? You see that too, right? Elphaba stands up and is just like, get down now. The broom listens and drops to the ground. Elphaba takes the broom, looks at Nora and says, stay away from me, stay away from my room, stay away from my stuff, and definitely stay away from the soldiers. After all of this, a letter actually arrives from Munchkinland addressed to Elphaba from Frex. And it is Frex begging Elphaba that she needs to come to Munchkinland and basically challenge Nessa Rose to take back the throne because it is rightfully Elphaba's since she was the firstborn daughter. Elphaba's just like, great, another thing for me to do. But she decides to go ahead and do this all secretly. She goes ahead and she tells Nanny, Lear, Sarima, and the kids and the sisters that she is going to be taking a leave of solitude up inside of her tower and not to bother her. And then she just travels on down to Munchkinland. At Munchkinland, she arrives at, what's the house called? Colwyn Grounds, which is basically where Melina, Elphaba's mother, grew up. She arrives there and she sees her father, who she has not seen in years, and she's just like, whoa. Goddamn, the man is old looking. One eyeball don't even work anymore. But they catch up, and Frex goes on to tell her she needs to be an advisor to Nessa Rose. Just kind of like whisper a little bit of advice to her every once in a while, because Nessa Rose is just going off the deep end. And she is an evil ruler, pretty much. She's almost like kind of like right along the lines of the wizard. Elphaba goes to see Nessa Rose, and Nessa Rose isn't really all that surprised to see her. She's just kind of like, oh, the daddy dearest tell you to come here. Oh, and yeah, I'm still furious at you for leaving me at Shiz University. I haven't forgotten that. One day, a woman comes to visit Nessa Rose and ask her for help. She's like, my maid has fallen in love with a woodcutter and wants to leave and get married to the woodcutter. And I can't have that. I can't have my maid leaving me. I need her. I need her help. I've brought you the woodcutter's axe. I'm hoping you can do something like maybe enchant it. Nessa Rose is like, okay, I'll enchant it to where when the woodcutter goes to use the axe, it cuts off his limb. And if he loses all his limbs, then maybe the maid won't be in love with him anymore. And for doing this service, the woman gives Nessa Rose a cow and 2 sheep. Elphaba learns that the cow and 2 sheep are actually animals, sentient beings, ones who can talk. She goes and she talks to them and she's like, hey, you guys can go. You're free. You're free. You can go. That girl, Nessa Rose, that's my sister. She won't hurt you. And the cow and the sheep are like, girl, be so fucking for real. If we leave, we are just going to be captured again. We are going to be tortured again. We are going to be reduced back to regular animal ways, or possibly end up on someone's dinner plate. And Elphaba's like, no, I promise you that's not going to happen. The animals decide to leave, but not before the cow tells Elphaba if we get captured again and we die, this is on you, Elphaba. This is all on you. Later on, Phrex then decides to tell Elphaba that Elphaba really should just challenge her sister and just take the throne back altogether. Elphaba tells her father that she really, all of this ruling Munchkinland is not what she wants. She wants no part of it. And this is when Phrex actually decides to open up a little bit to Elphaba about Turtle Heart. He goes, I loved Turtle Heart. Turtle Heart was my everything. Me and your mother, Melina, basically shared Turtle Heart. I loved him. I cared for him so much. And that is why I love Nessa Rose as much as I do, because we still truly don't know if Nessa Rose is Phrex's or if Nessa Rose is Turtle Heart's. But either way, Phrex looked at it as if Nessa Rose was Phrex and Turtle Heart's daughter, not Melina. Like, Melina was like out of the picture. Like, he was like, Melina had no part of Nessa Rose. Nessa Rose was truly mine and Phrex's daughter. Was truly mine and Turtle Heart's daughter. And that the day that they arrived at Colwyn, when they were it was either when they arrived or they were getting ready to leave Colwyn grounds to go to the Quadling country, Nessa Rose was born, and that is the day too that Turtle Heart was murdered. So Turtle Heart was killed on the day that Nessa Rose was born. After all of this, Nessa Rose actually ends up asking Elphaba to be her advisor, and Elphaba's like, girl, I want no part of this. Dad already asked me. I said no, and I'm telling you the same thing. I don't want anything to do with this. However, what I do want is when you die, I would like those shoes. You know, them shoes that Dad gave you? I kind of want them. I don't think I ever truly understood why Elphaba wanted Nessa Rose's shoes, but she wants the shoes, and Nessa Rose is like, all right, when I die, they're yours. So Elphaba leaves Colwyn grounds and travels on back to Kiamako. When she arrives, she learns that while she was gone, the Gale Forcers have kidnapped Sarima, the children, and Sarima's sisters. But they left Nanny and Lear, and now Elphaba's like, great! Great, now I gotta go find Sarima, the kids, and the sisters and figure out where the hell they are and what happened to them. We are finally in part 5, the last part of the Wicked book, and it is titled The Murder and Its Afterlife. So, again, this part of the book, I was just kind of like speed reading through it because at this point, I was just like, I need this book to be over. I need it to be over. I'm not enjoying it. I even tried listening to the audiobook, and I did not enjoy the audiobook because if I don't like how the narrator sounds, I can't listen to the audio portion of the book. Anyways, again, it has been a couple years, and a tornado has ripped through Munchkinland, leading to a house falling on Nessa Rose. So, you know, the Wizard of Oz. At that point in the Wizard of Oz where Dorothy ends up in Oz, I guess. Meanwhile, during all of this, Elphaba has actually been doing experiments on animals. I don't know how we went from somebody who is fighting for the rights of the animals to somebody who is now doing experiments on animals while they are alive, not like put under anesthesia or dead or anything like that. She is doing this while they were alive. She is sewing wings onto the back of monkeys. What? How did Elphaba get to this point? I don't know. Receives a letter informing her that Nessa Rose is dead. Elphaba arrives in Munchkinland and she is not greeted in a nice way. She is kind of like, they have like mixed emotions towards her, kind of. They're like, they've abolished the Throp family and that they don't want her to rule, even if she's in the lineage or not. Elphaba's like, hush yourselves. I am not here to take over. I'm just here for my shoes. Okay? Leave me alone. She sees her father, Phrex, who is like, he's just devastated at the death of Nessa Rose. And her and her father spend a little bit of time together. And I don't know if it's just, you know, the sadness talking or, you know, what, but Phrex basically tells Elphaba that the entire reason why you hate yourself and the color of your skin is because of you. You're the reason why. Definitely not anything to do with the fact that Frex and Melina could never find themselves to really love or look at Elphaba because she was green. Definitely not their fault. Definitely not. And who should arrive but Galinda? Turns out she was actually in the area at a game park hunting, I believe, dragons. But her and Elphaba catch up, and because they haven't seen each other in years. They haven't seen each other since Elphaba left her at the train station when they were supposed to go back to Shiz University together. And Glinda proceeds to tell Elphaba that she was there when the tornado came and the wind started to pick up, and she sees this house come out of the sky and plop right on down on Nessa Rose. And she's like, don't you worry. Your sister's death was quick. She did not suffer. She goes on to tell her about meeting the girl Dorothy, who came out of the house, and proceeds to tell her that she sent Dorothy to the wizard in Emerald City because it'll be safer for her there, because she thinks that the Munchkinlanders could possibly revolt and cause chaos, and doesn't think that it's an appropriate place for a young girl to be. Oh, and she also gave Dorothy Nessa Rose's shoes. And this actually pisses Elphaba off, because she's like, you had no right to take my sister's shoes and give them away. Those shoes were supposed to go to me. But Elphaba and Glinda do actually end up remembering their times together when they were at Shiz University and how well they got along and this and that. We get like a nice little moment between the two of them. And then Elphaba actually asks Glinda if she thinks that Madame Morrible spell came true. And Glinda's like, no, I don't really think it did, because a lot of the details are off. But back to the shoes. Elphaba is very pissed off that Glinda did something like this. And secretly, all Glinda really wants is for the reunification of Munchkinland, because Munchkinland has actually succeeded from Oz, and Glinda doesn't like that. She wants the reunification of Munchkinland with Oz. After the funeral of Nessa Rose, some Guild Forcers go up and tell Elphaba that the wizard would like to have a meeting with her. So Elphaba goes and meets with the wizard, and we come to find out that the wizard really just wants the Grimoire, the Great Big Book of Magic, and the shoes. I never going to understand why these shoes are so important. I feel like I missed that somewhere in the book, but I can't figure out why the shoes are so important. I really can't. I also want to know if Elphaba has any plans to take over Munchkinland, and Elphaba's like, I have told my father this, and I have told Nessa Rose this, and I'm going to tell you this. I have no intention whatsoever of taking over Munchkinland, because I want nothing to do with it. And the wizard informs Elphaba that the whole reason the Gale forces were in Kamiko was to basically watch her to see if she was going to try and take over Munchkinland. I don't know why that was so important. If it was Elphaba's birthright to take over it, I don't understand why it was such an issue. Again, I probably missed that in the book as well. But I think it has something to do with the fact that everybody knows that Elphaba is actually very powerful, and they're afraid of her. The wizard then brings out Noor, Fiero's daughter. Turns out Noor is actually a witch. Now, Noor's hands and feet are shackled together, and we come to find out that the rest of the family has actually been executed, and the wizard actually did a public execution. And Elphaba's like, listen, I will trade you the Great Big Book of Magic for Noor. And the wizard is like, why would I do that? Why would I do that when this is the only thing, Noor, protecting me from you? And we come to find out that the Grimoire is important because it was thought to be stuff of legend, and then possibly destroyed, and it's like this big whole thing, and the wizard wants it. Come to find out that the pages that are in the Grimoire are only those about dragons, which would probably explain why Elphaba sucked so much at magic, because it was all about dragons. The wizard says he actually did not come to Oz to rule it. Like, that was never his intention. It just kind of happened, and that's what he's been doing ever since. He goes, listen, give me a year, and I'll let you know if I approve of your deal or not. After a year, I'll let you know if I'll I'll trade Noor for the Grimmery. So Elphaba leaves on her broom, and she's off to get the shoes. She's got to find these shoes. While she is flying off on her broom, Glinda actually calls out to her, and Elphaba completely ignores her. And this is actually the last time both girls will ever see each other. Elphaba goes flying through Munchkinland, and she ends up at Bok's house. And Bok is, like I said, he is married to a woman who is constantly trying to off herself. They have like 12 kids. And Elphaba asks Bok if he has seen a little girl and a dog. And Bok is like, yeah, and I actually helped her too. And hey, by the way, did you hear Madame Warble is like on her deathbed? Elphaba is like, you know what? Thanks for that info. Say less. I know what I gotta do. Pace. She takes off to Shiz University, where she goes into Madame Warble's house because she's got to kill Madame Warble now. She goes into Madame Warble's house and discovers that Madame Warble is already dead. Yeah, dead. And Elphaba is pissed because she was the one who was supposed to kill Madame Warble. Madame Warble wasn't supposed to die on her own due to natural causes. Elphaba, was supposed to kill Madame Warble, so she takes a trophy off a shelf and smashes it into Madame Warble's skull. And then leaves and flies to an acquaintance house that she went to Shiz University. His name is Averick, I believe. She lands at his house and she's like, yo, hey, guess what I did? I killed Madame Warble. Are you going to call the cops? Averick is like, cool that you killed her, but why did you do so? And I ain't going to call the cops. But you know what you can do? Why don't you join my dinner party tonight? Like, you're invited. Like, no questions asked. Come to my dinner party. While at this dinner party, they have an entire discussion about evil and whether it's based on action or intent. And Elphaba is just like, whatever, I got shit I gotta do. And she leaves this dinner party, but she hopes that the gossip of her killing Madame Warble will spread through Oz because she needs everybody in Oz to know that she killed Madame Warble. At this point in the book, she somehow decides to go to the clock of the Time Dragon. And she confronts the dwarf that is working at it and asks about Yackle. And if Yackle works there, and the dwarf is like, yeah, sometimes she works here. Elphaba is just out of her mind at this point. She accuses the dwarf of speaking in riddles. And she's like, listen, I killed someone today and I will kill you too if you don't start, telling me stuff that's not in riddles. And the dwarf laughs at her and is basically like, you didn't kill anybody. I know for a fact you didn't kill Madame Warble. The dwarf actually goes on to explain that he knows everything because he's basically the keeper of the Grimmery, and also explains how he dabbles in cause and effects and he can kind of like meddle with it and change it if he feels like it. And then he tells Elphaba that she is like actually like a dangerous anomaly, and we learn that Yackle has somehow been influencing Elphaba's whole life. Not sure how, but she has been. The dwarf then gives Elphaba a little play in the clock tower, and it's basically kind of like about her entire life, like from birth all the way up until now. And we actually learn that her father is the wizard. But Elphaba is basically like, okay, well, where's the ending? Why hasn't it ended yet? And the dwarf is like, because your story is still going on. Like, it hasn't ended yet. We're still in the process of your story, sweetheart. And then Elphaba flies back to Bok's house, where she tells him that she killed Madame Warble. Because she's got to tell everybody that she was the one who killed Madame Warble, that she did it. And Bok is like, why would you do that? She was already dead and dying. Like, why would you do that? And Elphaba's like, because she was evil. She was horrible. Do you not remember? And then she's like, anyways, I need to go find Dorothy and I need to get those shoes. And Bok is like, you need to calm down and you need to also remember that Dorothy is just a kid. But Elphaba does not want to hear it. She will not listen to reason. So she flies away to go find Dorothy and get these shoes. While she is flying over the yellow brick road, she comes across a peddler, and she goes and she asks the peddler if he has seen Dorothy. And he's like, yeah, I saw her. She was traveling with a Tin Man and a Scarecrow and a lion. And Elphaba's like, bro, are you good? are you okay? Are you all right in the head? Anyways, did she have the shoes? And the peddler's like, yeah, she had them. And I tried to buy them, but she wouldn't sell them to me. And then we actually get the scene from the prologue in the book with Dorothy and the gang, and all of that. And the storm comes, but Elphaba can't do anything, all that good stuff. It's basically like the prologue, just kind of like rewritten in a way. So Dorothy and her besties make it to the Emerald City. Well, Elphaba actually returns home to Kiyama-ko. And Nanny basically is like, yo, what has happened to you, girl? You need to take a chill pill because you look like a ragged little mess right now. You need to calm it down. So Elphaba does kind of like calm down a little bit. She, is, I don't know if she's like straightening or going through the house or something like this. Like I told you, this part of the book, I was just kind of like one end right out the other because I was like taking it in, but I wasn't taking it in. But while she was kind of like doing stuff, she goes through Nanny's belongings and comes across the green vial. And that's when she realizes, oh shit, everything that dwarf showed me in the clock tower is actually true. The wizard is in fact my father. At this point, Elphaba starts to wonder if the lion is actually the lion cub that was rescued that day in class at Shiz University. She wonders if the Tin Man is actually the woodcutter that Nessa Rose enchanted the axe on. And Elphaba believes wholeheartedly that the Scarecrow is Fiero. And she actually finds out that Dorothy is actually on her way to see Elphaba because she has been given orders from the wizard to kill Elphaba. So, Elphaba decides to send Killjoy and a pack of dogs out to go bring the gang to her because in her mind, she believes the Scarecrow is Fiero. She's not doing this because she cares about Dorothy the Lion and the Tin Man. No, she just wants the Scarecrow because she knows it's Fiero. She's probably hoping she can do some magic spell on Fiero and bring him back. Well, the gang actually interprets all these dogs coming towards them wrongly, and the Tin Man actually cuts off all of their heads. So, Elphaba decides to send her crows in and peck. She wants the crows to check and see if the Scarecrow is Fiero, but she also tells them, go ahead and peck out Dorothy and the lion's eyeballs. Well, the Scarecrow actually kills the crows. So she sends her bees and she tells the bees to sting them all. And this actually causes the Scarecrow to unstuff himself to protect Dorothy and the lion. And all of the bees actually kill themselves by stinging the Tin Man. So at this point, Elphaba's like, fuck this. And she can clearly now see that the Scarecrow was never Fiero. She's now lost her mind at this point. She's pissed. She sends out her flying monkeys to bring her Dorothy and the lion. I don't remember what happened to the Tin Man. Is the Tin Man still alive? Is everybody still alive? I don't remember. I just remember the lion and Dorothy in this scene. So she tells her monkeys to bring Dorothy and the lion to her. And she tells Lear and Nanny to go into another room. Go into another room. You don't need to be in here. You don't need to see what's about to go down. She then orders the monkeys to take Toto and throw him in the well. This just ruins Dorothy. She's in hysterics. She's screaming, she's crying, and she begs the lion to go save Toto. So the lion leaves to go save Toto. Elphaba drags Dorothy up into her tower and accuses Dorothy of wanting to steal the great big book of magic and kill her. Demands that Dorothy gives her the shoes, and Dorothy's like, listen, I would love to give you the shoes, but I can't because I don't know what Glinda did. Glinda did some kind of magic and they're like stuck on my feetsies. I can't get them off. Listen, I don't even want to be here. I don't even know why I'm here. I came here to apologize for killing your sister that I had no intention of ever doing. Like I said, I don't know why I'm here. I don't want to be here. I just want to go home. Well, this pisses off Elphaba because she never got the forgiveness that she should have gotten from Sarima. And here's Dorothy, this little 11-year-old kid, asking for her forgiveness. And Elphaba's like, no, no, I will not hear it. And there's like a struggle. Elphaba pushes Dorothy. Somehow, in doing so, the book catches on fire, the broom catches on fire, and in the process, Elphaba herself catches on fire. Dorothy over here, thinking that she is doing the right thing to save Elphaba, throws water on her. And then what happens to Elphaba? I'm melting, I'm melting. Yeah, Elphaba melts. Elphaba dies. That's it. Elphaba's gone. So Dorothy returns to Oz with the green vial and the broom. She had to bring something to show the wizard that Elphaba was dead. Now send me the fuck home. I want to be here no more. And in showing the wizard the vial, the wizard realizes, shit, Elphaba was my child, was my daughter. I just sent an 11-year-old child to go kill my child. So the wizard is devastated. He is beside himself. He leaves in his hot air balloon off to God knows where. As for Dorothy, some people in Oz say she left. She returned home from wherever it was that she came from. Others believe she never left, and she is actually in hiding in Oz, waiting for her time where she is going to have to rise up again. As for Lear, he went into the Emerald City to try and find his half-sister, Noor, because he actually does end up learning that Fiyero is his father and Noor is his half-sister. So he is now on his way in the Emerald City to try and find Noor. As for the shoes, these so important shoes, nobody knows what happened to the original ones. It's for some reason they became like a fashion statement, and all these designers were trying to create these shoes to look just like the originals. They never could though. But the original shoes, nobody knows what happens to them. Nobody knows where they go. And everyone celebrates the death of Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West. The end. Okay, so in all honesty, I did not hate the Wicked book. I didn't hate it. There were some stuff in this book that I questioned, like why was this needed and why was this needed to be put in the book? Why did I need to know that she smelled her pee? Why did I need that scene with the tiger? Why did I need to know what color her hair was? There was some stuff in there that just wasn't needed. A lot of it in here, I was like, I feel like I'm on an acid trip. But all in all, I didn't enjoy it, but I did like it due to the fact that we do get a backstory on beloved characters from The Wizard of Oz. Now, this book is not a tie-in whatsoever to the Wizard of Oz books. This has nothing to do with them. This is just a new take on it. They borrowed, the author, Gregory McGraw, borrowed characters from the original Wizard of Oz and did his own spin on it. Now, this is, I believe, a 4-book series. And as much as it was a struggle to get through this, I am very much intrigued and am probably thinking about sitting down and reading the other 4. Or the other 3. But let me know what you guys think about the book Wicked. Have you read it? Did you enjoy it? Have you read the other ones in this series? Also, do you think the Wicked Witch, Elphaba, do you think she was born wicked? Or do you think she was made wicked? Or do you think she wasn't wicked at all? And do you think it could have been the other people in her life that were wicked? Let me know down in the comments, all that kind of stuff. And I hope to see you in the next video. I love you. Bye.